All right. Good morning, everybody. We see Hannah, Jennifer, Macklin, Sam, Sveta, and Susan. I hope I pronounced those correctly. Welcome to this morning's presentation. This is sponsored by Bob Jones Nature Center, as well as Tarrant Regional Water District and the Tarrant County Master Gardeners. And I'm Nancy Curl, and I'm just the Zoom host this morning. And your presenter is going to be Theresa Thomas. And Theresa Thomas is a Tarrant County Master Gardener, a former president of that association, as well as a master naturalist, member of the Native Plant Society, the Fort Worth Garden Club. Very, very busy lady. So this morning, as she gives her presentation, if you have questions, you're encouraged to put those in the chat box, or once the presentation is concluded, you're encouraged to unmute and you can ask those personally as well. So Theresa, I'm going to go to radio silence and let you provide your presentation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and good morning. I hope you're having a great morning. So this early in the morning, but we're glad you're here and we appreciate you being here. I'm going to talk a little about sustainable living, but before I get into that presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about Tarrant Regional Water District. They support this program today along with Bob Jones Nature and Preserve. They provide the raw water that is pumped up to our area lakes that goes to our treatment plants in the different cities in the Tarrant County area to treat for drinking water. They also are very involved in coarse water conservation. They have a great website, SaveTarrantWater.com. If you haven't been on that site, you need to review it. If you need a sprinkler check, you can do it free for Tarrant County residents. They have a Water is Awesome application that's free that you can download, and it sends you tips and tells you if you need to water every week. It's a great system. They have different programs on there that will help you with water conservation or any tip. And there's a contact where you can get in touch with them. We're going to talk about how to use some of our natural resources in and around our home. We're going to talk about water conservation, gardening, soil preparation, compost, mulch, and some plants that are available that are sustainable, that are drought tolerant. The compost, talk about the compost, how you can do a little of that and some information on that, and how to do soil preparation, how to do a bed preparation. So what is water sustainability? Water sustainability means maintaining clean and plentiful water that will be available for us now and for our future generations to enjoy and use. As you know, if you go up and down the 35 corridor from Burleson to Alliance, how we've changed over the last 10 years, 5 years, how it's grown, and how there's so many homes and so many businesses available, but there's no change in our water supply. So we have to learn how to conserve it. And we can do it as individuals and in our businesses as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. It's very important. We are going to increase, 3 million, they say, in by 2060. So we need to prepare this for the future. If you notice, I know she'll see this all the time. I do. And we're going to talk a little bit about sprinkler systems and how to maintain them. This is a lot of water use that can be controlled better by providing an audit. TRWD can do this to help you maintain a sprinkler system. If you'll notice, these two right here, they're laying on the ground, they're not doing anything, and all this is a waste, and this is a runoff. And these are just a couple or 3 or 4 more where we're watering the pavement and we're watering the sidewalks. And of course, it's getting the grass, but they need to be checked and controlled. This runoff contains pesticides and other stuff, grass and everything. This goes down to our I just went blank. It goes down to our streams and creeks, and it clouds up the water. It makes the water hot. It can kill our fish and our turtles that are in our rivers and lakes. So we need to learn how to control. Here's another picture. So it is our responsibility as homeowners, as business owners, that we check the system. For TRWD will come out, they check the heads, they see if they're rotating right, they check for leaks, they check for, they'll go over how to maintain it and help you a lot. And some of your other cities in the area, call and see if they'll do this for you. And a lot of them will do for a free check so that they can help you learn how to maintain a sprinkler system. You can do it yourself. You know, and this is something you should do anyway. You should go out and check those heads. You can take those heads apart. If they're stopped up, you can clean them, put them back on, they screw back in. If they pop up and down, you can check and see if they're angled right, if they're being used right. And you check each zone. And if you have an issue, of course, you could call. There are irrigators that will come out and help you. You want to maintain that it waters your beds and your grasses and not your sidewalks or your neighbor's yard. So pay attention to that. That's really important in our water conservation concept. They also have a performance. They say that we should water about on our turf about an inch a week, inch or 2 weeks, depending on the turf. But you can set a timer. You can use the one on the left. You can buy these at local places. And this is just a tuna jar can that you can set that timer on your sprinkler system and see how much water you get in 15 minutes. And that way will help you adjust. If you can, your control box, you can go in there and adjust that control. What is recommended for your beds and even for lawns, but mainly for your beds, is what we call low volume irrigation. We call it drip. It's known as drip. Trickle irrigation, I don't hear that a lot, but it is 90% more efficient for your flower beds and for your vegetables and for your herb beds. What drip does, it waters the roots. Here is a drip system. This is a netafilm system. What this does, it waters. I'm going to show you, and I'll laugh over this because I showed it to Nancy, and she thought it was a Tootsie Roll. I'm going to show you a copy of a netafilm tubing, and I don't know whether you can see if I can get that. May have to go back a little bit. And if you haven't used this, it has little emitters in it.
Theresa, you might show that to them again at the very end.
Yeah, I think I will. It's kind of crazy. Thank you. And what this does, it goes down and waters the roots. That's what you want to water, regardless of whether you're planting turf or flowers or vegetables or anything. You want those roots. That's where the growth comes from. That's another thing with your sprinkler system. With systems, you need to control that that spray, because those only water the leaves. They don't get to the roots. And this is a drawing of a bed. As you can tell, this can lay. You can do this yourself. You can lay it in a curve, a straight line. You can buy all the tubing, all the necessary kits at some of the box stores, or you can, hire an irrigator to come in. But master gardeners have used this in our beds and put it in ourselves. And this is a soaker hose. You can use a soaker hose. These, have been around for a long, long time. I use soaker hoses in a couple of my beds because I replant that bed so I can move that around like I want it. It does wonders. This hooks up to a faucet, so does your Netafilm drip irrigation. You can also add little emitters like this is to them. It's a very effective way to prepare and to water your garden. They do use this on lawns, but not a lot. Rain harvesting. If you don't know anything about rain harvesting, please go to AgriLife or AgriLife Extension website, TRWD, any of your Master Gardener website, and learn about water harvesting. This will save you a lot of money. This is clean, good water. I'll show you some ways to harvest it. It reduces what you use from the city or your municipal waters. It saves you money in the long run, because about 25 to 50% of all the water used is irrigation water. And if you have a lawn, whether it's drought tolerant or whatever it is, you use that water. You use a lot of water. You really don't realize it. What I've mentioned and what I've learned, and I did this. I went and got my water bill from the past, and I wrote down what it was, at a certain time. Then I went back when I got my next bill and saw what I had used, and it shows you the uses. So you can figure out how much irrigation water you're using. Rain harvesting is the most valuable natural resource. And of course, it's become one of the most valuable. Our water bills are increasing because of our lack of water. Even though right now we're in good shape, we go through drought seasons that you can use it. Well, you can use rainwater all year long. You use it on all your plants. You can use it in your house. A lot of people that live on farms and have acreage, they use it to feed their livestock. It will reduce flooding and erosion, contamination of surface water from the sediments and the fertilizers and the pesticides we use and the runoff. It won't be in that rainwater when you use it on your plants or when you feed your livestock. When we talk about water harvesting, we're talking about collection of collecting rainwater. This is what is used most of the time in our residential areas. It's a rain barrel, if you are not familiar with them. This is at the Master Gardener Demo Garden. It's an easy thing for all of us to do. They are available from TRWD, from the Master Gardener Association. This here is the building is our barn out at the demonstration garden at Circle Drive in Fort Worth. This is a rain barrel. These are rain tanks that we use to collect water and use. If you'll see how it's connected, it's easily connected. You can connect it to your drains at the top. Then this piping is brought on down here, and above this, there's a hole in this top of this rain barrel, and the water goes down in here. And then you have a spigot where my little arrow that you can use you can hook a hose up to it. You can hook a drip system up to it, and use it for your flower beds. You have to elevate it because you need to elevate it so you can get a good flow of the water. But this is a perfect example of how to use a rainbow and how to put together. We do have classes on how to put rain barrels together. There are videos that are available as well through the Master Gardeners, and that we can make available to you if you want to learn, or we can send you information about a class. This is another rain barrel that is hooked up. You can't see on the left the gutter system, but it's there. We don't usually use this, but this is your spigot where you can get water from. This is a cistern, which is a large tank that some people need to use in their homes or in their business, and it's hooked to the gutter system. It goes into the tank. You can't see where it comes out. Maybe that's a hose right there, but they use it. You know, I'm not sure what they use it for, but 1 inch of rain on 1,000 square foot of roof will equal 400 gallons of water. And it's the purest water you can get. Rain gardens is another way. This is probably one of my favorite things. I always talk about this. If you have a runoff and in your yard, or if you work for an area that the home's built on a slope, or I've seen them put on slopes. I've seen them in school gardens put on. I put one down the side of my house because I had a runoff from the back of my house to the street. And what this is they've dug this out. You have to figure out, and there is information out there how to do this. You have to dig down. I dig down about 12 feet. I added compost and mulch to this. I added native plants. You can add plants that like to get their feet wet. I have a crepe myrtle in mine. It does beautifully. I have antenna. I have Turk's cap. I have a lily. I can't remember what it is, but this is a beautiful way to help with a runoff if you have something that in your business or in your school or in your home. Here's just some ways to save money indoors. Of course, my favorite one is turn off the water when you brush your teeth. You know, I'm bad about leaving it on. So, and I don't know about you, but it's just easy. But use a glass of water. Replace some of your old appliances like your commodes. They say our old commodes use up 4 times as much water with each flush. Check for repairs. Leaks can cause a lot. You'll be surprised how many gallons just a leak will do in a period of time. Take shorter showers. You know, we say that to our grandkids or kids, but it will save you 2 gallons of water per minute if you back off a little bit on using your shower. I hate to give that up. Install aerator on your faucet. That allows the flow from the faucet to flow, reduces that. It adds air to give you a better pressure. Your washing machines these days, you can update those to an energy-free washing machine. They say that the newer ones use 15, 20 gallons of water per load, and you can save on that. Install a good shower head, an efficient shower head. There's so much out there today, like our dishwashers. that are energy saving. And, you know, if you need to replace one, you look into them and see what they say about each one. They recommend on these new dishwashers, you scrape it first. You don't need to use that pre-wash. If you scrape it and get all that off. And just some tips to use to think about. Drips is really, you know, we always overlook that drippy faucet, whether it's outside or inside. We're going to talk a little bit about how to use a garden, how to use natural resources for our garden beds. So when you start a bed, new bed, or whether you're working in an old bed, please pay attention to a couple of things. You need to plan ahead. You need to see where the sun is. You need to see where your water source is, because you're going to have to figure out how to water your bed. And you need to, it's always good to do a soil test. This helps in so many ways. It determines what kind of soil you have. It determines what kind of nutrients you have in your soil. You know, when you go to fertilize, you need to know that. Most of our clay, we have clay soil. There is some sand throughout the area, but a lot of us have the black clay soil. So we need, it already has potassium and the phosphorus in it. And most of the time in this area, we just need nitrogen. But you shouldn't guess, because you can run a lot of plants. You can run your turf grass. If you don't know how to adjust your nutrients, your applied amendments. And the master gardeners have a soil kit. You can call our help desk. There's the number, 884-1944. They'll put it in the mail. You submit a sample, and I think it's what, 2 or 3. You send it off to A&M Extension office. They'll evaluate it for you, and then they'll mail it to you. So this will help you financially, as well as having healthy soil and healthy plants. Here is a recommended way to set up soil. Most of this information is researched by A&M AgriLife Extension, so you can find this on their website. You clean it off really well. You add compost and you add expanded shell. This is 1/3 of each. You can do it however you want. You can just add the compost, but do add compost. It provides the nutrients that our soil don't have. Expanded shell is a clay and a mud shell, they say, that has been heated, and it breaks it up in little fine, fluffy increments, and you can use that. It adds air to both your clay soil, and it helps with the sand too. It helps add that moisture in. So it's adding the air that you need. If you can get this at all of your nurseries and your box stores now, but you don't use a lot. Just use, a lot of times we reuse the dirt we already have in there, 1/3 of that, and we add 1/3 of compost and 1/3 of expanded shell, and then we're going to mulch it. This is just what I have repeated a lot of times, because if you live on a rocky area, or you live where, I know where I live, I think the rock starts an inch down. So I have to raise my beds. I still use the soil, the dirt. I have to rephrase that, because the dirt that's already there, I'll use that and mix it in. But I raise it up a little bit, because to give it the 6 inches that it needs, to give it the depth, so that whatever I plant in there will work. So a lot of times in the area, raised beds are great to work with. And I've talked about the crown, and that's just making it higher so that excess water runs off. And you don't want it to run off into the street or anything. You want to, make sure it runs off into your area around your beds. Compost. You can buy compost or you can make it. You can do it yourself. It's very easy to do. You can go to the websites or you can Google it. And if you haven't tried it, you can do it in a small amount. Use finished compost. Finished compost doesn't have a smell, and when you handle it, it doesn't stick to your hands. If it has a smell, a rotten smell, well, it's not ready to be used. But you can fill up a bucket. You can take what a lot of people do, especially if you don't need a lot of compost, they take and get a kitchen bucket like this. They fill it up with eggshells, food particles, tea bags. You can add it to their bin. This is just a illustration of a bin. This has leaves in it. It has grass in it. It has, sometimes you add a little nitrogen. You have to water it down. There's two kinds. There's the hot, where you'll see it done at Botanic Gardens and the Master Gardener demonstration garden, where they turn it and that keeps it warm and it keeps it at a certain temperature. Or you can set up a bin outside in a corner somewhere, fill it up with your leaves and your glass clippings, and add your food items, turn it over, just cover it and leave it alone. It will take it a while to become compost because you're not helping it along. The value of mulch is just, you can't put value on it. It's labeled that way because it protects our beds. It protects what we plant. In our 200-degree weather, what we have in August, this will help control the soil temperature. It helps on the weeds. If you got all the weeds out first, but you're still going to have little weeds, it reduces the water use. It maintains our beds. It keeps it from drying out. You can use a slow fertilizer if you feel like you need to. It decomposes like a slow fertilizer. That's it. And of course, it helps if you want to make your beds look a little better. But it's not about making your beds look better. It's conserving the water, conserving the temperature, and conserving your plants. Types of mulch, there's all kinds of types of mulch. A lot of people use hay, pine needles. In the winter, it's good around here to take those leaves that we have that fall each year and put them in your bed. You can either mow them up, chop them up, use a chipper and chip them up and put them in your beds. They're great. Now, there are some leaves that do not compost and you need to pull them up, but it's great for our area. They do make all these other kind. We use hardwood. A lot of us use in this area, but anything that works. Of course, stone and gravel works. I use more stone and gravel for decorations, not for mulch, but some people do. Our landscape watering conditions are, you either have high maintenance medium demands, low. And this is where we'll talk about plants in the next segment here. Native plants are drought tolerant plants. They make non-native plants. They make plants that have been adopted to our area. The reason why we say native plants and adapted plants, they sync with our environment. They sync with our soil conditions. They sync with our temperatures. So when you go to look for native and well-adapted plants, and there's a list coming up. I don't have a list. I have a link for a list. Look for ones that grow in North Texas. Now you can find, you can go to all these websites, and but you want to break down just to North Texas, because there's a lot of plants, well, a bunch of plants that won't grow it from South Texas here. Different climate, different soil. They take much less water. Most of them are perennials. They come back every year. I know with the freeze, I know that we lost things this year, but I work at a demonstration garden over on Hewlin, and it's all native. It was, we use only Texas native plants and North Texas native plants. And it took it a while, but they're coming out. I was surprised, truthfully. There's one that we've lost that I wasn't expecting to lose, because it's a very hardy native plant, but slowly but surely they're coming around. And this is April, 24th? And it's taking time. And some of our bushes, like our Texas sage, is having a hard time this year. But we don't spray. We don't use pest control on our plants. At our, a good spray of soap and water in a squirt bottle will take care of most of the things that we have with native plants, our aphids. So, but if you use some kind of pesticide, be sure and read on the label. Don't use a spray, because you can kill other things around. You want one that just is centered, and they make those now. They used to not, but if you plant new trees and new plants, you want to water them really deep. To save your plants, you water them. You water them for about 6 weeks, every day or every other day, depending on our temperature, and you water them 6 inches deep, and you mulch them. Compost, you only need to use that one time when you're starting a new bed. It has the nutrients that our soil needs, but your mulch, it's good to put mulch down annually if you can. On native plants, we say about 2 inches, because we have a lot of native plants that grow low, like wine cup or Sexminia. Some of our ground cover is low, it'll smother it out. But in other areas, non-natives, they say, 2 to 4 inches. Native and well-adapted plants, it saves water. Once they're established, they have deep root systems. If you pay attention to when you buy them, pay attention to that root system, and that's what you need to have a good, stable plant. They improve water quality. They provide, the neat thing about all of our plants, and mainly our native plants, they provide shelter for our wildlife. Our wildlife could be birds, it could be butterflies, it could be our wonderful bees, and it provides year-round food all year round. And our all of our butterflies and bees and our wildlife need the food, they need the shelter, they need the water. And some depend on certain plants, like your monarch needs milkweed. They are less maintenance. I know that we usually trim them back in the first of the year, you know, January, February, and then we go in July or something like that and just top off where they've bloomed. They come back. They're perennial. Most of them are. There are a few that are not. They make wonderful. When I started in 2009, all they had was pretty much red jellicoe, which is wonderful, and cactus. And of course, most of us didn't want that look. So they've come out with, golly, some beautiful plants like your salvias. This is just some, the lantanas. These are some of the stuff that you can get at your local nurseries. We just finished a couple of plant sales. I know the Botanic Gardens had theirs, earlier in the month. The Master Gardener just finished theirs on Saturday. The Native Plant Society has theirs coming up on May the 8th. So if you're interested in native plants, please go to their website. You have to follow COVA regulations. So you have to set up an appointment. But the Blackfoot daisy is a wonderful low grind. This is the white right here. It grows, it loves gravel. It grows in our gravel beds at the garden. These are just one of the salvias. This is autumn sage. Purple coin flies, I'm sure you know. The blue mist here is wonderful for your butterflies. Flame of Campus, all these are the Texas sages for your bees, among other things. But all these will bring in your pollinators and your wildlife. And so will some of your non-natives, like your zinnias. I know my neighbor has zinnias all across the front. She has more butterflies than I do some years. And I, plant the blue mist and the fall aster and things like that. And, there's wonderful plants for all of our wildlife out there. Your native plants don't need to be ugly. This is in some type of business. Very well done. I love this garden here because it has a water source, a bird bath. Here, this is for your birds and bees. Now, butterflies won't use this bird bath. They like a saucer on the ground. They like mud. They like dirty water. It has the nutrients in they need along with what they get from as they pollinate. So just a picture of some of this is your Texas sage. This is your grasses, your but this is what drew my attention to this was that it provided water. And of course, it provides shelter too. This is another one. I don't know where this is at, but if you see, it's up on a mound where the water will drain off. This is a rain garden. I feel like it is out by a road, but they fixed it where the water won't run into the road. It runs around and down into the rain garden. Turf grass. Buffalo grass is probably, most of us have St. Augustine. And I've learned over the years that St. Augustine doesn't need the water they say it does. I water my St. Augustine once a week, maybe 15 minutes. It does great. He loves full sun, maybe a little shade, but it does well. The buffalo grass is available. And now it depends. The buffalo grass doesn't need maybe but a 1/4 inch of water twice twice a week. Your St. Augustine needs a little bit more. They have the buffalo grass, or they did have, at a sample of it at Botanic Gardens on the north end of the garden up there across from Britt. And Britt did have some at the back up there as well. I haven't been to Britt this year, so I don't know if it's still there or not because they're doing some remodeling. These are other grasses that are available. I haven't used them. Bermuda grass we have in our area. It, you know, it likes the heavy traffic. SU I haven't been involved in. A lot of people in the Central Texas use this. And there's our St. Augustine. And it's moderately water requirement. You know, in the years that the cities have maintained a water schedule, watering 2 days a week. I saw a chart that TRWD had, and for when they first started, I think the chart, I don't know when it was exactly, but this was last year, earlier than last year, and they had been monitoring it back. We became a part we began working with TRWD in 2017, and the water requirements were still just rising. And they had a chart showing that finally in 2020, the water uses was kindly settling out with watering 2 days a week from 10 to 6. And I thought that was amazing that it would do that they were able to get those statistics. But the bottom line is you have to figure out what you need. You have to steady, regardless if you've got a landscape that you want to redo or if you want to bring one in. Most of our grass, our shady area won't grow grass. So you need to find a good ground cover. They make both non-native and native ground covers. They make a horse herb just grows crazy, sun or shade. Mowing tips is recommended to help to save water and mulching. They say don't more than a third of the blade height. The higher height helps shade the soil, so encourage water to evaporate and weed growth. And it makes, you know, if you use a lawnmower that mulches, you've got your mulch right there. You've got your fertilizer. It saves on our landfills. And they recommend that you change the pattern crossways. That helps with the distributing of your clippings. I have never done this, and I'm sure when we first started Master Gardeners, I think I did when I first started, that if you need to irrigate low areas, they make these irrigators that you can rent or you can buy, and do it during the garden season. That helps open that air so you'll get better growth on anything you got. Fertilizing, as I said, do a soil test. And you'll see that repeating that usually we just need nitrogen in this area. Don't water before the storm. If you have a storm that's going to run off into the drain sewers, into our creeks and rivers and lakes, and this happens just normally, just, you know, when we get a rain, even when we're watering inefficiently. Apply half amount right to left and over half up and down to cover efficiently. That's just how to spread it out. Now, a little bit about edible landscape. We just had a program on edible landscape, and I was just the lady that did it. She, it was amazing how she had done it in her yard. Um, you can use, we don't think about adding or combining vegetables and herbs in our ornamental yard, but golly, it works. You have to pay attention to the water use. You can use containers to add herbs. You can use for tomatoes, for anything, that you want to, but you can mix in ornamental grasses and your food crops in there. Plus, there are edible flowers that you can add in there. It offers fresh. You've got your fresh lettuce or your basil or whatever herb you want. You know how it's been taken care of. You can take it right off of there, and how it's been taken care of. It has anything that's been sprayed on it, and you're out there making yourself more sustainable. You're out there in the garden, you're enjoying the sunshine, you're using the resources that's available. You can do anything by seeds. You can buy your herbs, you can buy your vegetables, and of course your plants, so you can go off seeds if you want to. But it just sounds like a great idea, and you can do it year round because vegetables are planted year round. So are our plants. You want to plant for spring, for fall, for summer, for winter. Have something blooming all the time. And of course, this provides homes for our pollinators, for our wildlife. It's just, here's some pictures. These, this is your black-eyed daisy. This is kale, I think, here. I'm not a vegetable person. I don't have sun in my house, in my yard, so I grow very little. I grow more herbs and tomatoes, basically. So, but look how great this is. This is a wonderful herb setup. You can put it on the side of a house. You can build them. You can get out here and plant with your family, your kids, your grandkids. They can learn, as well as you and I can learn, how to be more sustainable, how to use what we've got. The COVID taught, if it didn't teach us anything, it's helped us to learn to be more sustainable, to use the resources we have. This is a raised bed. You can do raised beds. This is perfect. There's tons of information available to do raised beds. You can do square foot garden, which is about half the size of this, and it's square foot garden's a little bit different because it tells you where to plant. But when you plant vegetables, you need to move them around. You don't need to keep them in the same areas. Edible flowers, tulips, my goodness, would you think that the petals are edible? Dandelions, we've always heard. I had a friend that would come to the demo garden, and she would dig up all the dandelions because it was a food source, your baby's breath. Who knew? Bee balm, that should be bee balm, B-A-L-M. I left that off. You can get it. It's a beautiful, tall plant. It has white and red leaves on it. It has a tea-like flavor, and it's a little stronger than the leaves. Daylilies are edible. The buds. You can eat them in salads, in stir fry. It just makes me about the rose petal. It has a sweet stage. I ever tried it. Red. Oh my goodness, red tips are good, but you can add this to your garden. How pretty is that? This is some resources available. There's your AgriLife Extension demo links. You can pretty well find everything on there that you want. If you have a hard time with that, you can Google most of the time. Your native plant, Texas native plant, they have a wonderful list there that you can go get. It's colored and it has pictures of the different native plants. You can print it off. You can go through it and you can pick, you could pick what you'd like to have, whether you like all blue, purple, mixed, whatever. The Texas Smartscape, I went and looked at that. They have a list and they do it by regions. You'd want the one for Texas, North Texas. It will give you what grows and been proven works in our area of Texas. The Superstar is got great information. Tarrant MG is our website. If we don't know it, we'll find it. But you can call this number. You leave a message now because of the COVID. We're not in the office, but we have emails. We have people that are available, master gardeners, on Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30. And they'll provide you with the information you need. And they can send you emails, they can send you links, they can send you, send you flyers, whatever information you need. And I want to leave you just with this thought. I thought this was really neat. Take a walk, take a hike, or a bike ride. Spending time with their family and friends in a local nature center, preserve, or a park, or a garden, or a prairie is good for us mentally and physically, but it's also good for the plants. At this time of year or any time of the year, you'll find wonderful blooms throughout our wildflowers. You'll find them in our pollinator gardens. There's not, I don't know, maybe probably January is about the only time, or February, where you might not find a lot of color, but you still can find something. A good thing to do is take a pair of gloves. It may be an extra trash bag, so you can go along and pick up the litter. We do a lot of littering. Sometimes, here late we find masks. Somebody leaves a water bottle, just different things in the gardens and on the trails, and it gives you a little exercise. You're bending down, picking up, so you're helping your physical part. The biggest source of water pollution is debris from our urban areas. And the more we pick up, the more our community will benefit. Thank you very much.